time for another round of brandy. Candid conversations over cocktails about all things brand with your hosts, Reilly Newman and Scott Saunders, the brand developers behind Motif Brands.
Welcome back to another round of brandy.
Reilly, you made a note of something about Staples, the office supply store chain brand. Recently, I didn't know they had acquired Party City.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't know Staples was still around.
Well, we have one nearby. I mean, we have one, a couple miles
somehow
away.
they've survived
Yeah.
as the office supply store. And when Party City went bankrupt, they sold off supplies of IP, of, again, even the market they served with filling up balloons, party supplies, all of that. Michaels jumped on that, so Michaels has a lot more party stuff now. You had a bunch of different brands do things. And apparently, Staples acquired the Party City brand and is now integrating Party City into the Staples stores.
Somehow, but they're not announcing it. It's not like that.
They're announcing it. I drove by and they have posters of balloons. They covered the parking poles with big old like Party City, and it's all balloons, confetti. And so now it's the most confusing.
Didn't your daughter?
My 9-year-old daughter was like,
she
"That's
pointed
weird."
it out. Yeah. Riley's
Staples?
9-year-old daughter, who obviously has a great appreciation of brand. Let's be honest.
Good taste.
Yeah, both your girls do.
It's in DNA. But she found it odd, and I found it odd, and so that's 2 generations there, 2 strikes. Maybe the older generation will appreciate it, but it's not. It's very confusing. And I was looking at pictures online, and apparently they're doing full store-in-store or brand-in-brand, where Target and Kohl's has done this, where they do Sephora inside of Kohl's or whatever, where it literally looks like the brand inside there. And so they're doing full corners or just tables, like a counter area set up where it's all branded as Party City. And then now they're even taking the liberty of doing Party City in the font, and then underneath it is Staples.
Yeah, it should be the other way around. It should be Staples Party City. Because,
It's
but here's the thing, though, is I think you think of Staples as, for the most part, office. I don't think of my home. I mean, obviously, if you have a home office, if I need something
office.
for yeah. But for the most part, it is office. That is what they specialize in. So when you have a party section, you have 3 or 4 aisles of your store dedicated to party supplies of all sizes and shapes. It makes me think office party. Doesn't necessarily make me think kids' birthday party, right? But that's what Party City is. I mean, do they sell pinatas?
It look like all things party from other, or just
You
a lot
walk
of
into
balloons.
Staples and there's a SpongeBob pinata.
Maybe they're just doing
corner.
balloons, and maybe that's so now it's like anyone from Dollar Tree to CVS does.
But
balloons.
again, it's like confusion, and that's the thing that's why we're bringing this up, because it just leads to brand confusion. You're left going, what are they signaling? What are they trying to signal, and is it working? But if a 9-year-old girl can go, I don't get what's going on.
Yeah, and very, very odd.
But we are going to be talking about something else that's a little more close to heart, particularly for you, Reilly.
Yes.
Daddy.
So that same 9-year-old Quinn was recently. She had a spot in a video game, and it's part of a franchise. It's the 5th of the series. It's called Poppy Playtime, and it's a puzzle horror video game series that it's quite popular, PC and console. And so Quinn was part of it's like a faux fake commercial at the beginning.
Retro 80s, super retro
themed.
80s vibe.
And it's cute and fun, but then also
it's kind of sinister.
It's dark,
too.
right?
It's yeah.
And so if you're familiar with the IP, it is through Mob Entertainment, which is a studio, and it's got this cult following. And so we thought we'd bring it up because I don't think we've actually specifically had an episode that's about video games.
Right.
We've talked about movies, we've talked about bands, we've talked about all kinds of things.
And Reilly and I are both gamers, and that's another thing we don't talk about. But we love gaming, and I'm a console gamer and have been for years and years, and so we were aware of it, but we kind of started looking at it as a brand, and watching particularly how they were going to roll this brand out.
Yeah, and mainly selfish interest. I was like, I wonder how they're going to use the footage they did with Quinn through the shoot, because we went to Santa Monica and shot it, and they did a bunch of different stuff, a bunch of different takes of things. And so I was like, I wonder what they're going to do with that exactly, because I was never told how it would be used, or it would be at the start of the game or at the end of the game, like who knows. And
you just
so
knew the premise of why they were doing live footage of you.
And
Not you, her.
And so I was kind of like, okay, let's watch some of their campaigning and just see how they do things, because they have, again, big following on Instagram and stuff. So they kind of just start posting pictures, and I started learning more about their lore, the story that they've told across now 4 chapters, and this is the 5th chapter, and the different characters. And so it's very fascinating from a brand perspective of going, okay, this started with an initial game it's about
and
an
you played
hour
the
long.
first one,
Yeah,
right?
it's about an hour
about an hour
long
long.
of gameplay, and you're introduced to some characters, to the premise of it, where you're trapped in a toy factory, and then there's some kind of evil toys, but there's also some good toys that help you, and just things like that, where it's like it's this interesting twist on almost
Toy Story.
Toy
gone
Story.
wrong.
Yeah, that's what I keep thinking about, because then you do, like, when I see on Twitter or Reddit, you see people who have grown attached to some of these toys, and these toys get beat up, and you're wanting to help save them because they've helped you along the way, and yada yada yada. But now these toys have become iconic, where the blue tall skinny one is called Huggy Wuggy, and even like this last Halloween, you could get the costume. He was on Fortnite. You could get the skin. He was on
Just
Minecraft.
now, they just dropped on mine. Yeah, you could get it for Minecraft skin to bring into. So the popularity of this franchise is pretty big.
Yeah, so it's been interesting seeing going, okay, because really it's like we've talked about it before, like Disney with Mickey Mouse, for example, where you have a mascot who becomes so iconic, and you see it start where you put Mickey Mouse in all these different stories and tales and cartoons, and you see it just keep growing because people become obsessed with the character. And it's interesting with like a game like this, where you have that same thing, where you have this overarching story, and each game's different, and they're hitting 2 main, puzzles and horror. Like, scary stuff is at an all-time high of being popular, especially with younger generations. I don't know why, but that's definitely a trend. And so now with the puzzles and everything, and they've tapped into that by now pulling that out of the game and into their marketing and their ongoing, either posting on Instagram. They make it where it is almost like you're solving these puzzles. Like, there's like almost full-on conspiracies of people on Reddit or on the wiki or on Twitter, and they're going into all these theories of the games and the characters and all these things. And like, they have crafted such an interesting like little universe that these people are exploring.
So the launch just happened, and we were talking about, we were looking at even footage on YouTube of a Spanish translation, right?
Yeah.
Of the video game.
Well, it's like a 7
Someone
or 9
posted
languages.
a screen capture of, and just how many views within
24 hours, it was collectively, you had like probably 4 million views, and now within like 48 hours, it's up to 12 million.
And this is of people that would like they'll record, they'll screen record their entire playthrough of the game, and then they post it online, and that's what the views we're talking about is people within an hour of the game dropping, these started popping up on YouTube, and at such an accelerating rate. And we were talking about how, in a sense, a video game launch, it's a product. A video game is a product. It's also an IP. And we've talked about that intellectual property. That is a brand. How you, as a person, have a brand. And so we've never really specifically talked about brand and the power of it when it comes to a market sector as big as it is, an economic sector as big as the video game industry, which is huge as far as dollars. But we've never talked about it in terms of brand, because you think, oh, branding the development company, the video game publisher, but the intellectual property of things like this, and for them to have a launch and prep the launch the way they did to cross promote it at time with other things like with Minecraft or Fortnite or other video games. The build up that they did to release a teaser versus a gameplay trailer. Like, how much do you reveal? How much anticipation when you have a core audience and you as a brand are going to release something new? How do you tap into the power of, I would say, anticipation? It's just an interesting market sector, but brand has a huge power for that.
Yeah, and it's not so much like, I don't know, you look at the design kind of aesthetics of it, and it's not polished to the extreme. It's not the most perfect made game or anything like that. And that's what's so fascinating about even the gaming industry, is that it's about the story. It's about the anticipation. It's about the engagement with it and the experience. And you have to do that because that is the product. That is what the person's buying. That is what they're part of. So even from a brand perspective, it's going, okay, them keeping these characters alive in between the games, it's staying top of mind. You're doing these things, and they're leveraging different kind of mediums where I noticed that they would release certain things on YouTube, but not on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter. And so they were using different avenues differently, where, for example, leading up to the game, they were doing these like lost tapes that were released on YouTube, and they were doing it like one per week. And those added a little bit of information to the story, filling in these gaps leading up to the game. And then, but only giving them so much, because that's part of it, is like you're almost putting the audience in this investigative, they're trying to interpret what this is. Oh, it's linked to this, it's going to connect to this, and they're hinting at this or whatever it could be. And it's like they're connecting this thing. And I'm like, you really don't see that with any other sector in a lot of ways, where it's like you have much forethought.
Not that much. I mean, I love when a big, whether it's Apple or Nike or somebody's like, there's something in the works, and when they're ready to have a reveal, it's like all the press circuits, everybody, all the main media outlets, everyone knows something's going to drop, right? And what is it? And then the fanfare. We've seen that with, gosh, I feel like we said, like, even when the first iPhone dropped.
Yeah, and especially leveraging anticipation, because to me it's like there's a lot of now coming out of so in advertising, there's always arguments of going, okay, is it about short-term gains or long-term? And brand is long-term, and then advertising is short-term. When they're actually finding out that brand serves both short-term and long-term, while advertising can be more just short-term. But the most effective advertising is actually the most consistent advertising. And that comes down to, because the best advertising that you can remember and that you actually recall, like Coke or Apple, is that they're very consistent in the way that they have the brand interwoven through the advertising. So the big research, as of in the last 5 years, is pretty much going, advertising should be consistent. You should have motifs that carry through the campaigns, the brand, all these things, because everything is part of that. Everything's part of the perception. It's all part of the experience. It's all interwoven. So my point here is that with like Poppy Playtime is that they don't separate the marketing from the gameplay. They've fully integrated where it's consistent. It's consistent across the board. They're doing things like where they post pictures, and then it's a dark picture of one of the characters, and then you have to screenshot it, and you bump up the brightness, and then it reveals certain hidden things.
But that's exactly the type of
they're
game
not telling you.
But that's kind of the game, that escape room kind of gameplay. Correct me if I'm not right.
Yeah,
I haven't played the game you have, but of that type of thing where it might the way to proceed further may not be so obvious. You have to kind of look around and be observant and look at some details and maybe piece them together. So it's got that kind of environment puzzle type of layering to it, which leads very much into the very nature of the game. So why not market it in the same fashion, which totally makes sense. Doesn't mean that being cryptic and everything works again. What you're saying, I love the point of being consistent with it.
Yeah, and so even consistency, it's like you're finding, okay, well, what is it about our brand, right? If you're a small business, you're like, okay, they're talking about a video game. I can't relate to this at all. I've never played a video game. I don't understand this. The key point here for me is like you latch on to what the core or the crux of your brand is. What connects with people in your offering, in your service, in your product, and with your brand itself. It's like, what are people actually connecting with? And like Scott said, with the game, it's like it's a mindset. It's a certain type of enjoyment that they have, and the game means that to them. And then you go, okay, how do I carry that through? Not just in my when I'm working, when I'm serving a customer, but how do I carry that through the advertising, through the campaigning, through my marketing? And this kind of goes back to our brand as theater, is that you're always on stage. Like your business is constantly performing, and the audience is part of that performance. And you need to engage with them. You got to pull that through. It's not like the curtains close and then when you close up at night and it's done. But it's everything is part of that. The social media posts, how you respond to emails, how you answer the phone, everything. And that's again what it goes back to the old adage of like how we do anything is how we do everything. And that's what like Walt Disney would say was, if we lose the detail, we lose everything, because he knew how important the small details were. And you look at all the brands from Apple to Poppy Playtime, where it's these small little details where the fanatics, the people who do love it, that makes them really lean into it. And so look at your business, go, okay, what are these small details where we can actually complete that experience, complete that perception, and carry it through? And like, that's where the word motif carries a lot of power, and that's why Motif Brands is Motif, is because it's a pattern. It's a thread that's carrying through the perception and the experience that people can latch onto and go, oh yeah, that is that.
To sum it up, we wanted to just call attention to, for us, what we saw a couple days ago of essentially a brand launch, Chapter 5 of Poppy's Playtime video game, a brand launch that was months leading up to it, and the way it was effective, and to see it firsthand throughout the day, looking at numbers and checking things, because, as Reilly said, his daughter was involved in the project, so it was very personal for him. But tracking the number of views and the audience reception and the explosiveness of a brand launch like that just really kind of made us pause and go, wow, we got to recognize that and just call it. It's interesting in that particular market of video games and the power of brand, but plenty of application for all the brands out there in whatever sector you're in. So
yeah, and somehow I feel like it does relate to Staples and Party City. I feel like it connects to Staples not being consistent and veering off the path.
Yeah. So anyway, guys, thank you so much for checking in, listening, and until next time, cheers.